right, well, good morning, everybody. So, welcome to CSE224, Fall 2020. So my name's Nick. Some of you I've had in previous classes, Engineering 250 or 270, or maybe a 101 class. So I teach CSE 224, both sections. I'll also be teaching 222 and 223 in winter and spring, and I also teach CSE 215, which everyone who is computer science is probably taking either this quarter or in winter. So you'll be bumping into me a lot over the coming year. So we're online, and as far as I know, we're also going to be online for winter. So we're going to be Zooming a lot. I've made some changes over the summer and since summer term ended to try to make our Zoom class time more interactive, to try to get more back and forth with the class. And we'll see how that works. Throughout the course, right, I always encourage feedback. If there's something that's working, if there's something that's not working, right, definitely shoot me a note, let me know, okay? I'm not going to hold bad comments against you, but, you know, this is kind of experimental for, I think, everybody. So, work in progress. So I've always recorded my lectures. I've always presented in class with this kind of format, a document camera that I can use to write stuff, and the ability to, you know, switch to a terminal window where we can write code or do Unix commands or whatever. And that works well in the classroom, but I try to do sort of a straight translation to Zoom, and it doesn't always work as well because I'm here, you're there, and there's, you know, this wall in between us of virtualization. So so I'm going to use the same basic format. I'll be using, you know, the document camera and writing things. We'll be doing things in terminal windows. We'll be looking at browser windows and so on and so forth. I record all of my lectures. Those will be posted on Zoom, on YouTube. So you don't necessarily need to write down every single thing that I'm saying during class, okay? Unless, you know, something goes wrong technical error-wise. Everything will be recorded and posted. So I'd like you to spend your class time trying to learn the material, trying to understand the concepts, and being as interactive as you feel is appropriate for your style of learning. So if something's not making sense, ask about it. Okay, if I say something and you're not sure, you know, what that relates to or something, go ahead and ask. And there's a number of ways we can interact during class. So one way is to use your microphone, and I have yet to have a class where, you know, everybody was trying to talk at the same time and it turned into chaos. Most people seem to be pretty reserved in using their microphones. So I would say, for now, if you have a question, turn on your mic and just ask. Right? That's the easiest, most guaranteed way to get my attention. You can also use the chat feature on Zoom, and you're welcome to either chat to me privately or send it out to everybody. So I'll send out a test chat message, which hopefully everybody has gotten. And what I'd like is everybody go ahead and just send a chat message, just post it out to everybody, and let's just make sure that everyone knows how to do that. Perfect. And I know most of you have been doing Zoom for, you know, a number of months now, so this is not, you know, necessarily challenging. But I want to make sure everybody is comfortable with these basic systems. Does everybody know how to raise their hand? And go ahead and raise your hand if you know how. So, well, that means I gotta figure out how to do it. All right, so I see 15 people raising their hand. So
in the participants window.
in the participants window, okay, so for me there's a little dot on the bottom that that lets me raise hand. Cool. All right, and then in the same way I can raise my hand, I can lower my hand. All right, cool. So that's not necessarily going to grab my attention right away, but I should eventually see it. If I'm not responding to you and you posted something or you raised your hand, just turn on your mic and say, "Hey, excuse me," and we'll go from there. All right, perfect. So so this is CSE224. It's a course. Its official name is something like Programming Tools and Linux, or maybe Linux Programming Tools. Everybody here who is in here must have Canvas access because that's where I posted the Zoom information. So as soon as you enroll in the course, you get access to the Canvas shell. And we'll be using Canvas fairly heavily. This will be where you find assignments listed. This will be where you can check your grades, and so on and so forth. So let me do a quick run through on Canvas. And throughout the lecture, periodically, when I start a new topic, I'll put a little pop-up in the window in the upper left that says like Canvas Overview. And you'll be able to use those. If you go to watch the video, you'll see timestamps recorded with those notes. So it's a way to sort of flip through the video more efficiently. So Zoom meeting info, everybody already knows this, right? Because you're here. But this should be the same. If it changes, you know, if the meeting doesn't exist or something, come back into Canvas and check, because this is where I'll keep that information up to date. Office hours, so engrcs.com/schedule lists office hours for myself, Andy, Zod, and Tina and Carol. So my hours right now are going to be Mondays 7 to 9 p.m., Wednesdays 5 to 7 p.m., and Fridays 2 to 3 p.m. So a variety of times. I've tried doing really early morning appointments, and most people don't seem to show up for those. So late evening, early evening, and afternoon hours throughout the week. And those are hours for all of my classes and also for advising. But you know, anything that you need to talk to me about, come and find me there. And if you click on my name, there's a Zoom link right there. And if you go into more details, then you get a clickable link. So. And it's a different link for office hours from the classroom. Now, if you try to catch me in office hours, there's a waiting room. Okay, so when you connect, if it says waiting for the host to let you in, that probably means I'm in a meeting with somebody else. Okay, and that can go on, you know, for a half hour, 45 minutes. So particularly later in the quarter, come to office hours kind of prepared to maybe have to wait a little while. Okay, so put your sound on so you know when I let you in the room, and you know, have something else you can do. Let's run through the syllabus. And I'm going to I gotta do this from a separate document just so I can make it bigger. All right, so goal of the course, right? Basically to get more comfortable and more familiar and more efficient with working in a Unix type operating system. Using it as a development environment. Computer scientists, right? That's what we are. You're going to be spending a lot of your life working in Unix. Okay, it's you know, probably the most popular environment for computer science people. It's where you're going to do your development, you're going to write code, edit it, test it, you're going to do collaboration, and so on and so forth. And the more comfortable you are working in Unix, the more efficient you're going to be. I never want people to feel like the computer is getting in their way, like there's some kind of chore associated with using their tools, right? So when I want to do something and I need a screwdriver, I go to my toolbox and I pull out a screwdriver and I use it. I don't have to reboot it. I don't have to upgrade it. I don't have to go to the store and buy a new one because my screwdriver is too old to work with today's screws. Okay? That would be a ridiculous tool. But that's what computers are like, right? I have a piece of software I haven't used in 6 months and I try to run it and I got to go through updates and I've got to wait and I've got to download other things to make it work, and maybe it's too old for my operating system and it just doesn't work and I have to find a new tool. That's ridiculous, okay? Unix, we're not going to have to deal with that. We're going to talk about how we sort of make the environment our own, how we set things up to be, you know, our toolbox or our tool shed with things just the way we like them. So a big part of this course is sort of getting that mindset and getting things set up so that we can work efficiently and spend our time and energy and creativity writing code, developing algorithms, you know, coming up with the creative stuff instead of dealing with minutia. Prerequisite is CSE224A. That's your first C programming course at Clark. We will talk about C a lot in this course because the next course, CSE222, is extensive C programming, and you really need to be very good at C to get through the next course, data structures. So we will spend some time in this course talking about C programming, and we'll kind of go back to the beginning and build up from almost nothing, but fairly quickly because people should have already had, you know, at least one C course. All right, so my name is Nick Macias. I could have said that up front. But yeah, my name is Nick Macias. My email, nmacias@clark.edu. That's the way you want to get a hold of me online. Okay, that or Discord. Do not send me email through Canvas if you expect a quick reply. Canvas email is sometimes flaky. Sometimes I reply and the replies silently get dropped because someone changed something, and I cannot look at most Canvas email on my phone. Especially if you send an attachment, I have to log into Canvas, I have to download it, I have to open something that lets me look at it. It's all very inefficient. Straight email, nmacias@clark.edu, that's your best bet. That at least gets to me immediately. Okay, you may not get an immediate reply, but at least I'll see what you're saying. There's a textbook for this course, the Linux command line. It's a free PDF download. You can link to it through here. There's nothing magic about this. I'm not going to assign homework questions from here, but it's a useful reference. It covers a lot of Linux, a lot of details, but really, you know, the web is filled with, you know, pages and books about Linux. If you already have a book that you like, that's fine. But if you're looking for a reference, this is a decent one. Okay, it's got lots of good stuff. C Primer is always good. That's the giant backbreaking book from 121. If you still have that, that can be useful. Tentative schedule. This is probably somewhat meaningless, but it's my first stab at what we're going to do. Oh, good, and someone posted a link to the C Primer, which will save your backs. But maybe not your souls. So tentative schedule, I don't know, we're going to talk a lot about Linux. We're going to talk about the Linux environment, setting things up, logging in, logging out, all of those basic details. And then we're going to start talking about shell programming, right? Writing programs that are basically shell scripts. And shell scripting sometimes gets a bad rap, right? You hear disparaging terms like script kiddies, right, for 10-year-olds who are hacking the World Bank by writing bash scripts. But scripting is really powerful, and I've become more and more of a fan of just putting together quick bash scripts over the past years, and especially over the past summer. It's a really quick way to do some pretty powerful things, and for a classroom, it's a really fun way to sort of learn more programming, right? To think about algorithms and put things together, but with a much bigger bang for your buck, so to speak, right? A little bit of code and you can do some really crazy, fun things. So we'll talk a lot about shell scripting and bash programming. We'll start moving into C, do a lot of review of C, and we'll talk about debugging. So debugging is another part of this course. That's one of the main tools we're going to get out of here, is using GDB, the GNU debugger. So that when you write a C program and you run it and it doesn't work, or it's seg faults or something like that, you can actually run it in a debugger and see what's happening step by step. And if you're getting an error at this line of code, you can stop right before that line of code runs, and you can say, what's the value of this variable? What's the value of that variable? And you can use that to sort of help figure out exactly what's going on. So we'll talk a lot about debugging. And the other pieces of the course are really just lots of tools. So things like awk and sed, which are these text processing programs, grep, and things that deal with regular expressions for pattern matching, make files so that we can compile and link our C programs more efficiently and in a very general way, and so on. So we'll talk about lots of tools. We'll talk about Git, source code control. That's going to be one of our first topics. So we'll be all over the place, and this tentative schedule will probably wiggle a lot, and may or may not have any relevance to what we actually end up doing, but it's a target for now. Course outcomes, I'll let you read these, but these are basically the things that you should come out of the course understanding. And if you pass the course with a C or better, it should mean that you have a sufficient comprehension of these topics to be able to build on them in other courses. 224 is a required course for being a junior at WSUV, which is where the majority of students are headed. And it's also a prerequisite for CSE224, the data structures course in winter. So these are the things that you'll be getting out of the course. All right, grading, favorite topic for everybody. Working grading rubric, 25% for homework. This will be short homework questions like your homework one that's already posted, and also your longer term programming assignments. 10% for one-day programs, and we'll talk about one-day programs later on, but these are quick 24-hour turnaround short programming assignments. If you understand what you're doing, they take about 5 minutes. If you don't understand what's going on, they might take you like 5 hours, but it's 5 hours that you really needed to spend, because it means that there's something foundational that you need to work out. So we'll talk about those probably in another week. Attendance and class participation, I have those set at 0% right now because I'm hoping that people will participate and come to class on their own. If attendance drops off, say below 90%, then I'm going to start counting probably 5 to 10% of your grade on attendance and class participation. Attendance is basically showing up, and participation is basically answering and chatting and responding to questions and so on. So someone asked, are we required to come to every Zoom meeting? Required is a heavy term, but you're expected to come to every Zoom meeting. Okay, so it's not an online class in the sense of, download the material, do it on schedule, and turn it in. It's actually a remote class. So this is the online analog to coming into Clark and sitting in room 155 these days, these times. Midterm will be 25%. That's around the end of week 5. Final exam 35%. Service learning project 5%. This is still under development. But we'll talk more about the SLP in a few days. It used to be a long-term project you would do, and you would present to the school at the end of each quarter, and so on and so forth. And I'm still thinking about how to do that in an online setting. So it'll be a small part of your grade, but we'll talk about the details of that in a few days. Course policies, academic honesty and plagiarism. We'll probably be talking more about this down the road, but basically you got to do your own work, okay? Taking code from somebody else, rewriting code that you've seen, paying somebody to write your code, paying somebody to take the course for you. These are not things you want to do, okay? And it's shocking and disturbing how easy it is to pay somebody to take the course for you. I stumbled into a website a few weeks ago, and a chat box popped up, and so I started chatting with this service, and it's like, can I give you money to take my course for me? And they're like, absolutely. And I'm like, what if my teacher finds out? And they're like, well, the teacher won't find out. We use a VPN and we mask our IP and blah blah blah. And and there's tons of businesses like that out there. Um, so you know, I don't think anybody in the room right now is one of those. Um, but the tricky part about academic honesty and plagiarism is knowing where the lines are. Okay, and this is the part that we'll have to talk about when we start getting into programming assignments. But it can be tricky to know, when am I working with a friend versus when am I copying from a friend. So we'll talk about that. But the underlying punchline is you want to be doing and turning in your own work. Okay. Um, Late papers and assignment policies, so I need things turned in on time. The due dates are set to be generous enough that if you start the assignment the day it's given, you should be able to get it done by the due date. Okay? The problem is if I give you 2 weeks to do a program and you start it the night before it's due, you may not finish it. Okay? And in that case, absolutely, you cannot get an extension. If you start it when it's given and you've been working on it for 2 weeks and you're making progress, and the night before it's due your internet goes out or your power goes out, right? Hopefully you've turned in what you've already done up to that point, and you'll probably get like 90% of the grade. So these deadlines and this late assignment policy is not some kind of like penalty system to trip people up who don't get things done on time. It's a reminder that you should start your work early and you should try to get it done, something other than like 5 minutes before the deadline. So we'll talk more about that with specific assignments. Same thing with missing exams. Don't miss your exams. Okay, it's complicated after that. Don't misuse the equipment. Don't hack the system. The Linux server that we use is very open. It's very lenient. You can send emails to each other. You can talk to each other. There's areas of the system that I've left deliberately open so that you can look at them and so on and so forth. But it's an easy environment to hack in some ways, right? A denial of service on a Unix system, not a really hard thing to do. Not a lot of glory in it either. Okay, so don't do that stuff. All right, support services. Let's see. Do you limit exams by a period of time or allow the entire day for a timed exam? So exams are basically midterm will be given during class time, and it'll be typically 50 minutes, so you'll have the whole class period for it. And it has to be taken during class time, so it'll open at the beginning of class and end at, in this case, 10:50. Final exam, I'll follow the final exam schedule for Clark. So your final exam will be that first Monday of exam week, and it'll go from 10 o'clock to 11:50. And your exams will be online, as far as I know. All right, support services. So, Clark is very committed, and I'm very committed to the idea that this is not a weed out class. The goal here is not to like fail students. Okay, the goal is to help students succeed, which means whatever your goals are in being in school and taking this course and so on. I want to do whatever I can to help you succeed in those goals, and the college wants to help you succeed in those goals. And so one aspect of that is being able to make accommodations. Okay. For example, some people have a hard time taking tests. They understand a subject, and when they get down to taking a test and the test begins, they panic, right? Or their mind goes blank, or they have difficulty reading the words, or have difficulty typing, test anxiety, things like that. And that can derail your education, right? If you can't take a test and get a grade that demonstrates your understanding, that can be a problem. Okay? So we don't want that to be a problem. So, for example, if you have an issue with taking tests where you feel like being able to have extended testing time would be a benefit to you, right? There's ways to set that up. So there's a Disability Support Services Office, DSS, that can help you document what's going on and get provisions for things like extended testing time. If we were in a classroom, having a note taker if you can't see the board, for example, things like that. So DSS, you can reach them through their website, you can send email, you can reach them through voice. I'm pretty sure they have Zoom access available. And it's a really great resource. Okay, so if there's anything going on like that, either talk to them or talk to me, and I can help you find out who to connect with. Because that's a really good option to take advantage of. All right, college-wide policy. So this is probably the one and only time you'll hear me read from the syllabus, but I like reading this out loud once in the beginning of the quarter. And this is Clark's non-discrimination policy. And I always read this one to make sure people hear it, but it's kind of particularly timely in 2020, I think. So non-discrimination policy. Clark College affirms a commitment to freedom from discrimination for all members of the college community. The college expressly prohibits discrimination against any person on the basis of race, color, national origin, disabled veteran status, sex, sexual orientation, age, gender identity, creed, gender expression, Vietnam-era veteran status, religion, marital status, or the presence of physical, sensory, or mental disability, and add in anything else that's not already in that list. The responsibility for and protection of this commitment extends to students, faculty, administration, staff, contractors, and those who develop or participate in college programs. It encompasses every aspect of employment and every student and community activity. It would be hard to make that more all-encompassing, okay? But think of it as all-encompassing, right? So treat people decently. Expect to be treated decently yourself. And it's not always as big an issue online as it might be in the classroom, but it can be, right? I mean, you can have someone sending you hurtful chats or making comments that are making people uncomfortable and so on. So I think it's common sense. Okay, I've never had an issue with this in the classroom so far. But if there's any questions about this or anything, definitely let me know. And again, the goal is we want you to concentrate on learning, Unix programming and tools in this case, right? Not trying to manage someone who's being a jerk or something. All right, so the code of conduct, you can click through to that. It's pretty boilerplate. There's a link to Canvas, which you're already on. Some keys to success. These change every quarter, and I don't know if people actually think about these or not, but just some things to think about, right? Come to every class. Come to class on time. Plan on staying the whole time. And try to concentrate on learning, okay? If you take notes and then plan to read them and think about them later, that's not very efficient. If you know the video is going to be posted and so you spend class time, folding laundry, yes, sometimes we have to do that, I understand. But the more you can spend class time sort of tuning in and thinking about what we're doing, the better off you're going to be. Use your computer as a resource for answering questions. Right? So what happens if I don't say #include stdio.h in the beginning of my program? Give it a try. Write a hello world without that #include. See what happens. Right? The computer has most of the answers for you. So that'll be a theme that we come to again and again in here. Get to know other students. Okay, so yeah, I already said I don't want you cheating, but that doesn't mean you can't work with other people in the class. It doesn't mean you can't kick around ideas, compare your understanding of concepts, ask each other questions. This is how I learned programming. Okay, when I was in college, there was a small group of us. It was about 4 people. And we were always together. We were coding. We were, giving each other challenges and comparing solutions. It's a really good modality. Can be a little harder online. Maybe it's a little easier, right? Since we're online anyway. There's a Discord server for the class. You're welcome to use that. We'll talk about that in a second. Make sure the work you submit is entirely your own. We already talked about that. Try not to fall behind in the course. Okay, the course is cumulative. Everything will build on everything else. Particularly in the beginning, it's really important to try and stay on top of things. If you feel like you're slipping behind, come and talk to me. Okay, do it as soon as possible. I have never laughed at a student. I have never told a student, oh, you should know how to do that. I don't have time to teach you that, right? That's not my deal, okay? I am here to help you. So if we're talking about, how to pass command line arguments to a C program, and your question is, I don't know what a C program is, come and talk to me, okay? And we'll talk about it, because if there's something like that's not clicking for you, right? We gotta get it clicking as soon as possible. Otherwise, everything else we talk about kind of, is going to be meaningless. I don't anticipate having to cancel class because of the weather, but you never know. All right, you can go to the Engineering Computer Science webpage and see other policies, grading rubric, and so on and so forth. Any questions about syllabus details? All right, I think that's all pretty straightforward, right? How to quick start guide, we'll come back to that in a minute. Linux text, there's another link to the online text. Links to lecture videos, so I'll be posting videos for all my classes. They'll all be in here, but I have a handful of lectures, of videos posted to begin with, which you're welcome to take a look at any point. First is using the Q&A system, which we're going to do in a few minutes. Using VirtualBox to set up a Linux environment, customizing PuTTY. Those are probably the first three that may be useful to you, and they're like 5 minutes, 14 minutes, 6 minutes, so take a look through those when you get a chance, but I'll post videos there after each lecture. If we do code, this is empty right now, but this will be a list of topics that we've talked about that you can find in the videos. If we write code in class and it's interesting, I'll post a link to it. I'll post it on the server, and you can find a link to it through here. So there's nothing in there right now. And then the Discord server, this is something that seemed to work really well last year. So this is an invitation to it, but once you're on the server, there's a CSE224 channel. So 224 general. This is one channel for both sections, so if you have privacy concerns, don't use your real name, okay, because people in both sections will share this. This is not an official sanctioned Clark thing, okay? This is unmonitored. I don't pay a lot of attention to it. I don't police it. If it gets abused, if people are being harassed on here and so on, I'll just shut it down. But it seemed to be really useful in past classes for students to be able to talk to one another and help each other understand things. And I'll try to teach you something, but sometimes I don't know exactly how to present an idea or an answer that's going to be meaningful for everybody. And somebody else can say, oh, it's just like such and such, and they'll say, oh, okay, I get it, thanks, right? So feel free to use that. And hey, hi. And there's some people from last year that still pop on here once in a while, and that's cool too. So this is for CSE224. There's a 215 one also. There's a general one for anything that's just kind of like unrelated to anything in specific. And if you want to do memes and stuff, go over to the segfault one, and that's just kind of for whatever you want to post. All right, so your first homework assignment is posted already. That's homework 1. So let's take a look at that. This is a kind of pulse check. just to get everybody up on the air. So let me, I don't want to download it, so I'll pull it up from here. Hold on one sec. Alright, so homework 1. 4 steps. First step, log into the server. We're going to talk about how to do that right now. Change the password, run the answer program, send me an email, log out. Okay, so let's get into the details here. So we're doing most of our work on a Linux machine. It's not the CTEC server. Okay. So let me do this. So we'll talk about Linux access. So the machine we're using for this course is linux.engrcs.com, and you have a couple of ways to connect to this. If you're on a Unix machine, you can do SSH. So SSH username linux.engrcs.com. If you're using PuTTY, without typos, if you're using PuTTY, you can use PuTTY to connect to this. And I'm guessing most people are going to use PuTTY, so let me do this via running PuTTY. Alright, one sec. So I run Linux exclusively now, except for Clark stuff, which is still Windows oriented. So I have to fake my PuTTY setup. All right, so people are probably familiar with this, right? So server name is linux.engrcs.com. Okay, so it's not ctech.clark.edu anymore. Your username is your first initial followed by your last name. With no space, no punctuation, no nothing. So this is on Canvas. There's a page labeled How To and Quick Start. And let me show you that document. So Linux server, linux.engrcs.com. It's different from your CTEC login. Okay, that's bold-faced and in red and in large font for a reason. There's no period between your first name and your first initial and your last name. First initial followed by last name. So if your name is Tom Smith, your username is T. Smith. Your default password is your student ID followed by an underscore. Okay, that's your CTC link ID. So if your CTC link ID is this, your password is that, 10 characters. All right, so if my name is Arnold User, I'm going to log into a user at linux.engrcs.com. And same as CTEC, right? You want to be on port 22, you want the SSH item checked, and go ahead and say open. All right, so there's my PuTTY window. So it wants my password. So type in your password, which is your 9-digit CTC link ID followed by an underscore, and hit enter. Okay, the first time you log in, you get this message which says you must now change your password and log in again. First thing it wants is your current Unix password, the password you just used. Okay, so it's not your new password, it's the same one you just typed in. And then it wants your new password. And then it wants your new password again. And then it logs you out. Alright, so run putty again. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a user at linuxengrcs.com. And this time it should ask me for my new password. I won't say that, but I know it wants my new password. And then it logs you in and you're good to go. Okay, you're back on the same old kind of environment that you used for 121, but it's a different machine. Password is case sensitive when setting it up, yes. Let's see, so we got some good comments here. So Windows can also do SSH these days. Okay, good to know. So if you want to do SSH, right, it's just SSH username at linux.engrcs.com, put in your password, and you're good to go. And now you're running with whatever your favorite terminal program is. So for me, you know, I can change my font size and good stuff like that. Resize the windows easily, and so on. Alright, so someone says if you have a recent copy of Windows 10, use the command prompt and use open SSH, which comes with Windows 10 by default. So that's good. Password is case sensitive. Where would we need to go to reset the password? If you need to reset your password, send me an email and tell me that, and I'll reset it for you. Okay, and the Windows SSH command is just SSH, but it's running Open SSH underneath. So Unix has a command who, which tells you who's logged in. So I'd like everybody to try to log into the Linux server right now. And if you had an account, if you were registered for the class as of, I think, Thursday last week, you should have an account. So go ahead and try logging in right now. And if you can't get logged in, send me an email and let me know, and we'll figure out what the issue is. Alright, so your homework, first step, log into the Linux server. The how-to quick start guide on Canvas has details for that, which we just went over. It will force you to change your password and it will log you out. So log back in and then run the answer program. Okay, now we're running a little short on time right now, but let me just show you what this is. Once you're logged in, just say answer. And it will say waiting for a question from the teacher, and it'll show you the current question, which is what's your favorite color. So just come down here and say, you know, I like red. And you can either click on the submit button or you can hit the tab to go down to the submit button and just hit the space bar. And bingo, you got that part of your homework done. And it'll say waiting for a question from the teacher. I'm not going to post any more questions today. So the way you get out of a program in Unix is Control-C. Hold down the control button, hit a C. Okay, and that's important. And that works almost always. Do not use Control-Z unless you have a really good reason to. It will look like it's ending your program, but it doesn't. It pauses your program. And if you Control-Z too many things, you won't be able to log in until you talk to me for help, because you've got all these other programs sitting out there hanging around. If you go to those videos I posted for the class, there's a video on using the answer system, and it tells you if your characters are looking funny and putty, how to make them look not funny. There's a setting that you have to change. Alright, so try to log in and run the answer program. And we got lots of people posting answers, so that's good. Alright, and then the last part of the homework is to send me an email. And I want you to send me email on the server. Now, this is not a good way to reach me in general. This only works inside the server. But we're going to use this occasionally, so let me show you how to send email. Just mail Nick. Okay, so Nick's my username on the Linux server. And it'll ask for a subject, and I'm just going to say testing. I'm getting some network lag here. And then you basically type in your message. And when you're done, you can either hit a Control-D, or you can type a single line with just a period on it. And that's it. That sends your message. Alright, and so one person has noticed already that when they run PuTTY and they do the answer question, the answer command, instead of seeing this nice box, there's a bunch of Q's and there's some X's, I think, on the side and so on and so forth. So there's a setting you can change in PuTTY to make that look reasonable. So let me do that really quickly, and that'll do us for the class. So on your PuTTY window, come down here under Window and come down to Behavior, nope, Translation, and this box on the bottom, Enable VT100 Drawing Line, check that. Okay, so that's under Window, Translation, and if that box is checked, then you'll see the nice appearance. And if you don't check it, then you get that weird stuff. All right, so that's a good enough start for now. So work on your homework, and the main thing is, you know, if anything in here is not working, if you can't get logged in, if you can't get the answer program to run, shoot me an email, nmacias@clark.edu, and we'll figure it out. And yes, when you send mail, once you end it, if you see EOT, that means it's sent. All right, good enough for now? Awesome. I will see you either in 2:15 at 12:30, or I will see you tomorrow for 2:24. All right, thanks everyone.